Today's topic feels like one of those ideas where you give someone an inch and they instead take a mile, and I really can't believe this is a topic we're talking about. The NCAA is currently considering a rule that, in my opinion, seems like a really bad idea and is using the guise of we want to help our athletes by allowing this. That idea is allowing their athletes to gamble on professional sports. While it may not seem like that big a deal, in this video, I will explain the dangers of allowing this to happen and the secret dark reason I think the NCAA wants to pass this rule. But before we get into this, if you enjoy college football and alternate football league content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also let me know whether you believe collegiate athletes should be allowed to gamble on sports in the comments section below. I would like to be honest with the fact that I personally do not sports gamble, nor do I really care for sports gambling. With that being said, I understand it is a major revenue generator and has become a major part of sports culture over the years. At the end of June, the D1 Council introduced a proposal to allow sports betting on pro sports by athletes and those involved with athletic departments. The reasoning behind the bill, at least on the surface, is to give athletes resources to gambling responsibly and to understand the dangers more under the rules. I'm a little skeptical over the reasons behind this and will explain why I truly believe this bill is not being presented truly honestly. But let's share the positive mindset behind the idea first. Illinois Athletic Director Josh Whitman explained, NCAA rules prohibiting sports betting at all levels were written and adopted at a time when sports gambling was largely illegal nationwide. As betting on sports has become more widely accepted across the country, Division I members have determined that further discussions of these sports betting rules is warranted, particularly as it relates to the potential distinction between betting on professional versus collegiate sports. Throughout our discussion, the Council has remained focused on student athletes' wellness and educating student athletes about the risks and potential harmful impacts of betting. They believe in normalizing sports betting. It will allow athletes to develop a healthier relationship when it comes to gambling. Dr. Dina Casero explained deregulating professional sports betting may provide schools an additional long-term benefit not seen with abstinence-only approaches. Harm reduction strategies including education, stigma reduction, and acknowledging actual behaviors. By meeting the student athletes where they are, schools may be more effective at preventing, identifying, and supporting student athletes with problematic gambling behavior. Regardless of the changes, the schools are encouraged to use as many sports betting resources already available. The NCAA already released material to help athletes when it comes to gambling, with the harm reduction consideration for gambling and sports betting and collegiate sports references available through sports betting resources, including the NCAA mental health best practices. Additionally, more than 100,000 student athletes, coaches, and administrators have been reached through the NCAA's educational efforts with Epic Global Solutions, and the NCAA has launched an e-learning module to educate student athletes on problem gambling, harms, and the integrity risks associated with sports betting. Several sports betting-related violations by staff members at NCAA schools have been resolved through the infractions process in recent years. The enforcement staff is working on issuing notices of allegations in several ongoing cases that involve allegations of betting on professional and college sports by student athletes and/or athletic department staff members at a handful of NCAA schools. The proposed rule change would not be retroactive. If it is adopted, it will apply only to sports betting activities that occurred after the effective date of the proposal. NCAA Vice President of Enforcement spoke on the move, saying, the enforcement staff sports betting related caseload has significantly increased in recent years, and our staff, including our new sports betting integrity unit, has been effective in detecting and pursuing violations. So the reasons they are explaining of why they want to implement this is to educate and provide resources to athletes to make things safer for them down the line. Under current NCAA rules, they do not allow student athletes or institutional staff to engage in sports betting at any level, professional, collegiate, or amateur. For any sports that have NCAA championships, and NCAA members have continually maintained that any betting by a student athlete on his or her own team or own sport in college should continue to result in a permanent loss of any remaining collegiate eligibility. However, in 2023, Division I changed the reinstatement guidelines for student athletes who participate in sports betting on professional sports to focus on the harm reduction for problematic betting behaviors. In a video conference on April 21st, the D1 board voted 21-1 in favor of directing the council to adopt legislation to deregulate the prohibition on wagering on professional sports. It also directed the NCAA staff to develop a concept for the appropriate committee to consider regarding a safe harbor, limited immunity, or reduced penalty for student athletes who engage in sports wagering but seek help for the problem gambling. I would like to think that the NCAA is truly doing this to help athletes and staffers who may be developing gambling issues. But this is the NCAA we're talking about, and with the NCAA has gone about its business over the years, I think there's a far more sinister reason they are trying to push this through. Currently, NCAA rules prohibit NCAA championships to advertise or bring in sponsors associated with betting. I think the NCAA wants to see the reaction to this movement to continue normalizing sports betting for their fans and their athletes. Once that occurs, then they could start taking money from gambling companies through sponsorship and advertising opportunities. I also wouldn't be surprised if we find out ESPN could be a part of this move, so they could promote their gambling service more during the NCAA championships. This would allow NCAA leaders to make more money and build more relationships with gambling companies. I also think it could lead to more issues for collegiate athletes. While the goal is to provide resources for athletes with a problem, who's to say, with this now being allowed, a player who may not have gambled may try it out and develop an addiction, and in the future, if they become a pro athlete, may run into even more issues that could cost them their careers. I mean, let's just look at what is happening in the NBA with multiple betting scandals by multiple players and the FBI's involvement right now. The NFL has also been dealing with issues itself, and by providing an easy path for young athletes with developing brains to try sports gambling out, it could lead to more problems than good things. While this rule bans players from gambling on their own sports teams or on their own sports, who's to say athletes won't try to find a way to do it? Who's to say the universities will have a great structure to educate and monitor this the right way? Iowa State has already dealt with a gambling scandal recently. In 2016, even though sports betting was only legal in any form in a few states, 24% of student athletes on men's teams reported violating NCAA bylaws within the previous year by betting on sports legally or illegally, one or more times for money. With all the issues going on around sports and sports gambling, it is a terrible time to try to push something like this through. Is why I'm being very cynical about it and why I think there's a deeper reason to why the board is trying to push this through. There's a ton of money to be made and gambling companies are willing to pay for it. We are probably less than a decade away from the FanDuel College Football National Championship and College Football Playoff. The plot is beginning to be lost, and I think we are forgetting about the dangers and addictions involved with sports gambling. I close this out by saying, while the resources may be there to get help, who's to say young athletes with not fully developed brains will actually take advantage or use the resources or will know how to get the help, especially with how normalized gambling is becoming. What do you think? Is this a good idea or something devious that could lead to more issues? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.